Hey everyone, in this video we're going to look at how to wrap up a level by having it end with a boss battle. So I added two new images. Again, they were drawn in an external paint program, nothing really special about them. This, which is going to be the new terrain image for where the boss appears, and then this is going to be the boss. So let's go ahead and put that new background image in, and let's slide over. We'll line this up horizontally. And then we'll give it the same height. It's -2. Now, just like we did with the other terrain in the inspector, we're going to click on Add Component, Physics 2D, and we're going to go to Polygon Collider 2D. That looks fine. It's form-fitting. Set it as a trigger, and that should be all we have to do with that. And then for our boss, we'll drag and drop him into the scene. We'll move him over. And again, if you make an image slightly too big or too small, you can click on the image asset and change this. It defaults to 110. As you can see, I put it up at 115, which makes it slightly smaller. Yes, it's the opposite. And he's going to also need, in the inspector, we're going to add Physics 2D. We're going to add Polygon Collider, and again, that's decently form-fitting. And we're also going to make him a trigger, add component, Physics 2D, and Rigid Body 2D, and we get rid of the gravity. So what we're going to do, we're going to have him move up and down, so just a very simple kind of movement. And we're going to use what's known as IE numerator. So by doing that, you use an exact timing mechanism. And that is, it will move based on how much time passes as opposed to frame rate. Because if you base something on frame rate, if something's running at a higher frame rate, it'll happen sooner. And if it's running at a slower frame rate, it'll happen later. It'll happen slower. So you have to be very careful if you want something to be based on frame rate or time. Generally, you want it on time. Might be a few exceptions that I'm not thinking of. So what we want to do, we're going to add a script. So let's right-click, create C#, and we'll call this BossCon. We'll click on our boss object. And then we drag and drop our BossCon script onto the boss. Double-click to open that up. Again, we can delete the two remark statements because they are not executed. They're merely there for internal documentation. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this in motion as soon as it's instantiated, which at the moment is as soon as the level begins. So what we're going to do, we're just going to have it move a certain amount. We're going to have it move for a certain amount of time at a certain speed. Then we reverse the direction for the same amount of time. That way it stays within the same range. It's a very simple motion, but once I show you this, you can then elaborate on it. So get component, rigid body 2D. We said we added a rigid body. Velocity equals new vector 2. And we'll have it move 0 along X, so it's not moving left or right, it's just moving up and down, and we'll have it move at a rate of -2. So as soon as it's instantiated, it's going to start moving down. Then what we do, IE numerator, and we'll call this, say, boss move. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds. So the main thing to remember about this line, you're making it wait 4 seconds. So yes, you have to type this, but don't worry too much about that for now. Just know that the net effect of this line is to create a delay. So you're going to wait for a amount of seconds. We'll say 2 seconds. And that's just a complete random number. You may find that you might want this to move for a longer duration of time. So what we now do is we take this, and like I said, we reverse it. So now it's going to be a +2. And then what we want is we have it wait 2 seconds again. And then we go back to this. So what you have is a cycle. You start off moving -2 for 2 seconds. Then you move +2 for 2 seconds, which should, if everything's working right, bring it to exactly where it began. And then it moves negative again. And then once it moves negative again, we therefore want it to come here. And we do that by just saying to start this all over again. So start coroutine, and it's going to be boss move, also with its parentheses. Now we copy this, and we put it here. And so now we have a recursive or auto-recursive system. So it comes down into here, and then it repeats itself. So now what we need is when the camera reaches the boss, we want the scrolling to stop. So we will go to our game flow, and the base speed we set at 1.5, and we are going to have that go to 0. So this script is attached to the camera. So we're going to do a couple things. If we're going to use that cam position because it's, again, the position of the camera. I'm going to use the X vector. So if the X position is going to be 47, I believe, is about where that ship is, then we want a couple of things to happen. First of all, base speed needs to be set to 0. And since we only do this once, we only apply the base speed to the ship, to the camera once, we now need to have that happen again. And again, using base speed, this time being 0. You could say, well, why not just do 0 here? Because now we have other objects using base speed, so we have to make sure that we're changing that. Because the ship's movement is also derivative of game speed. So I think that's about all that we need. I'm probably going to tweak a couple things though. Let's make the ship move faster so we're not waiting too long. Well, technically we're making the camera move faster, but the ship too, the player ship. So we're going to make that move faster temporarily so this isn't taking forever. And then let's actually go to our ship, the enemy ship, that is, the boss, I should say. We're just going to push him up a little bit because I think he's going to be colliding with the ground. All right, so let's give this a whirl. There we go. Sure enough, he's moving probably kind of fast, and he is still colliding with the ground, but overall it worked. The area, the environment came to a stop, the camera came to a stop, and he's moving around. So we can just tweak that a bit. We'll move him up. And what we'll do, we will change the boss speed from -2 to say 1.5. And again, you have to add an F now. And you need to make sure that you make the change in all of the instances. And so he moves slower, but now we want him to move a little bit longer. So this can also be a decimal. And again, you need to make sure all instances of the timer are the same as well. So now he's not going to move quite as fast, and now he's going to be moving in each direction a little bit longer. And we again said that he was colliding with the ground. There we go. And you really don't want him to go too low. I mean, I suppose you could, but his shots would be hitting this. I suppose you could just change the terrain if you want. So, okay, so we have a boss that's moving about. The environment, or should I say the camera, stops moving. So far so good. Now let's just give him a simple attack. I think we might just reuse the shot image. So let's go ahead and take the shot image and we'll drag it into the scene. Now here's a case of not thinking of ahead. If I had made this white to begin with, I could have simply changed the color blue for the player shot and then say red or yellow for the enemy shot to make them more distinctive. So I can do a color blend, but it's going to blend it with blue. So very often what you'll do is if you're going to reuse an asset, you keep the base color to be white and then you can just change it in Unity. So if I have the shot image selected and I click on color, say I do like that. See, it's not a great color because it's blended. So we'll make it like kind of a evil purplish color. And we'll add component, physics 2D, polygon collider 2D is a trigger, add component, physics 2D, rigid body 2D, not using gravity. Technically, I could use this shot and change these things in code, but it's not really worth the effort because in the old days, like the NES days, when you had very limited memory, you'd probably have to do something like that. Memory isn't an issue anymore. In fact, the next generation of consoles, they're saying that some games are going to be 100 gigabytes. So if you're looking for really tight memory management, that would have been the better way to go, that you have a white image, you change the color with code, you change the collisions with code, but again, that's thinking ahead. So with the shot, we need it to have a different name. So tag, add tag. So we have tank, missile, ground, ship, shot, bomb. Let's call this, let's just call this energy. If I could spell. We'll just call this energy. Now we have to go back and actually apply that. And we will apply a script and then we turn it into a prefab. So right click, create C#, and then we will call this boss bullet. Shot. Boss bullet. We open up that script. Again, get rid of the remark statements. In the start section, we basically are going to copy what we did for the shot. So rather than being +6, it's -6. So again, I'm going to copy this partially out of being lazy and partially to reiterate the fact that you're just rinsing and repeating. This is not new functionality. So if I didn't do anything wrong, that should now, when this object gets instantiated, shoot along the x-axis with a -6 velocity. So now we just need the boss ship to be aware of the shot. So we take the shot, put it here. Let's call it shot 1, because you can't have two of the same type of asset with the same name. And then what we'll do is we go to our boss, double click, it jumps you to them. Although we could have just opened the script. And now we just need to make the boss aware of the bullet. So public transform and enemy shot. We save it, go back to our scene, enemy shot, drag and drop our prefab, and now the enemy boss ship is aware of the shot object. So let's go back to our script. We're going to keep this super simple. We're going to just have it piggyback on this. So what we're going to do is whenever the ship changes direction, the enemy boss ship changes direction, it will fire. Yes, it's very predictable, but if I show you the basics, you can then build on top of that. So, instantiate, and remember instantiate has 3 arguments. What is instantiated, where it's instantiated, and its rotation. So what is instantiated is the enemy shot. Where is transform.position. That's not going to be quite right, though, because it's going to instantiate in the middle of the ship, which is not really that big of a deal. We're going to want it to be out in front of it, but at least we can get the basics in place. So transform.position, and then enemy shot.rotation. And then we have this again. So that is after it changes direction. Okay. So we save that. Now the only thing is, we really only want the bullets to fire when you've reached it. You really don't want it firing ahead of time. So there's a couple of things you can do. We probably should just check to see if the camera has stopped moving or if the camera has reached a certain position. So either way, and so yes, you can put an if statement during a coroutine. So if, let's just use gameflow dot base speed. If it equals 0, now you have to add brackets, well, squiggly brackets. If you don't, it will royally mess this up. Okay, so what this says is this is the only thing that is contingent upon this. So even if this is not true, everything else will still happen. So what we'll do is we'll actually get rid of my other one and just replace it with this one. Yeah, that should do. Okay, so once the camera stops moving, it should start shooting. Let's go ahead and fix this. So new vector 2. And the X is the one that's going to be wrong. So X, say, -2, maybe 3. Comma. And then transform dot position dot y. And now we'll just copy that and replace the other one because we need this to be consistent. So again, sorry that I changed my mind a couple of times there, but I decided not to be lazy and actually break this down into its X and Y vectors. So now let's just go back to boss bullet. We'll add some collision detection and that will wrap up this lesson. So on trigger, enter 2D. And again, because it's Visual Studio, it pre-populates all the other stuff. Again, I don't like it using the word collision here, so we'll say other. And we just start checking for others. So we want to see if other.tag equals, let's go to our scene, and our ship has the tag of ship. Or, and again, that's the key next to Enter and above Shift. It's the key with the backslash, and you hold Shift. So other dot tag equals equals. And if the ship hits the ground, that's ground. Or, so if it hits the ship or it hits the ground, I think we created one for a bomb. We must have for collision detection purposes. Yeah, bomb. Or if it shoots the bomb. Basically, if it collides with anything other than the boss ship itself, then we want it to get destroyed. Destroy. Sorry, not dot, parenthesis. Destroy.game object. And we also want to put a timer there because we don't want the bullets to go on infinitely. And so, destroy. So when the bullet first gets instantiated, you automatically add a timer to it because what you can do is there's an optional second argument here. And you could do like, say, 4. It goes on for 4 seconds and then will automatically get destroyed. So, 4 seconds after being spawned, the bullet will self-destruct. If it hits the player ship, the ground, or a bomb, it will be destroyed. Now we just need the ship and the bombs to reciprocate. So for our ship con, we already have our collision detection to be destroyed. So that means we just add another one. So this kind of system scales very well. And now you just check for, I believe it was energy. And the ship would get destroyed. And for our bomb, same thing. We already have the functionality of checking for a collision. And that should do it. Remember to save all the scripts. Be tough to try to hit it with a bomb, but get destroyed with the ship. Okay, and now we just need our shots to destroy the ship. So that would be a little bit different. So the boss ship needs to have HP, so boss con, public, static, int, boss, HP. Actually, that probably doesn't have to be static, but we'll leave it for now. Because since we could just add collision detection to the boss. So I see this every once in a while where on trigger enter just doesn't want to show up. I didn't think sequence really mattered. So you didn't want to show up there for some reason. Again, we'll get rid of collision. And if I seem like I'm going through this kind of quick, again, we've looked at this functionality, so now it's just rinse and repeat. So if other dot tag, I believe we said was shot. So here's the player shot. Yes, shot. So equals shot. Then was it boss HP? Boss HP minus equals 10. I don't think I set a value. Equals 100. So basically 10 hits should destroy it, and in the update section we just check what HP is. So if boss HP is less than 1, then our good old trusty destroy game object. And that's it. So the next video we will do, well, we're going to run this to make sure, but the next video will then do the UI with the scoring and then loading a new level. Maybe add a health meter for the ship. Again, it depends if you're trying to have a retro look or a more modern look. So let's see, it was that. There we go. Did I fire 10 shots? Let's do that one more time. It's on trigger enter, so no matter how long they're colliding, only the first frame of the collision should count. I actually have to be careful because this is actually a real game now, kind of. So there's 1, 2. Oh, actually, you know something? It can collide with it one shot can collide a couple times because it's not an even shape. You could actually one shot could collide a couple times. So the way we'd clear that up is we will just have the bullet get destroyed, which it should anyways. Because what's happening is since the collider, trying to find a good place, like right here, it can collide with here, it can exit the collider, technically it could clip here. So there are a couple locations where it could actually hit twice, not to mention that the ship is moving up and down. So like it could pass through here. If it's moving down, then it could clip through here. So sometimes what's going on isn't readily obvious because when I was looking at that, I said that didn't quite look like 10 shots. And that's why. The first time was probably only like 6 or 7. So once the shot self-destructs, it'll be fine. So that'll be the last thing. So ShotCon, we already have this. And again, we just have to add the mothership, boss ship, whatever. Did we create... We actually didn't do a tag for the mothership, so let's do add tag, and we can just do boss, save, click on him again, boss, and that'll do it. I'm not going to run it again because I know that will work. Okay, so sorry that the ending there was a little bit haphazard. It went on a little bit further than I thought it was going to, but if there's any questions, just leave it in the comments section. But again, once you see how collision works and that you're checking the tag of the object that's colliding, sorry for repeating myself, it's just rinse and repeat at that time. So, okay, so I think that should be it for this video. In the next video, we'll handle the UI, and that should wrap up the series. I haven't seen any comments about any requests. So I think the next video will probably be the last one, but now you have a full level, and now it's just copying the level. So when you're working, you need to save your work, okay? And when you do, this is what you've been working on, this level. So what you do is you just make a new level, you just copy a level, and then you just make modifications. So you swap out like the images for the boss, you swap out the images for the ground and that kind of thing. Okay, so that should about do it for this video. I hope you found this helpful. And again, if you have any questions, please just put them into the comment section and enjoy the rest of your day.